I returned from a grueling business trip to uncover my wife's secret betrayal and ruthlessly turned the tables, making our house her new address forever. Already put me in a foul mood. The business trip had been exhausting. 5 days of non-stop meetings, forced smiles, and hotel rooms that all looked the same. All I wanted was to come home, take a hot shower, and sleep in my own bed. That wasn't asking for much, was it? I pulled into our driveway at 11:30 p.m., noticing the living room lights were still on. Strange, she usually went to bed by 10. I dragged my suitcase up the front steps, fumbling with my keys, too tired to even text that I had arrived. The moment I opened the door, I felt it, that distinctive chill in the air that had nothing to do with the temperature. She sat in the living room, scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging my presence. "I'm home," I announced, dropping my bags by the door. She looked up, her face a mask of indifference. "Your pillow and blanket are on the couch." I stood there, processing her words, wondering if I'd misheard. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. The couch is your new bed," she stated flatly, as if telling me we were out of milk. I laughed, not from amusement but disbelief. "That's not happening. What's going on?" She rolled her eyes dramatically. "I don't want to discuss it tonight. I'm tired." "You're tired? I just spent 5 days closing the Henderson account while living out of a suitcase, and you're kicking me out of my own bed with no explanation?" That's when I noticed it. Subtle changes around the house. A vase I'd never seen before. Some of my books missing from the shelf. The family photo from our trip to Colorado was gone, replaced by some generic artwork. She stood up, crossing her arms. "One night on the couch won't kill you. We'll talk tomorrow." I walked past her toward our bedroom, only to find the door locked. Actually locked. In the 10 years we'd been married, we'd never once locked doors against each other. Something was very wrong. This wasn't about a simple argument or me forgetting an anniversary. The calculated coldness, the locked door, the missing items, this was something she had been planning. I could have made a scene, demanded answers, or slept in the guest room. Instead, I nodded slowly and returned to the living room. "Fine. Just for tonight." The look of satisfaction that flashed across her face told me everything I needed to know. She thought she had won. Thought I was capitulating. What she didn't realize was that I was buying time to assess the situation. After she disappeared into our bedroom, I quietly explored the house. The desk drawer where we kept important documents was slightly ajar. Upon closer inspection, several folders were missing. In the kitchen, I noticed a receipt from a storage facility across town. I settled onto the couch, not to sleep, but to think. My mind raced, piecing together the subtle signs I'd been ignoring for months, the working late excuses, the password changes on our shared accounts, the unexplained expenses. This wasn't a spontaneous decision to banish me to the couch. This was part of a larger plan, one that I had stumbled into midway through its execution. As I lay there in the dark, I made a decision. I would play along just long enough to understand exactly what was happening and formulate my response. If she wanted to play games, I would let her think she had the upper hand. Morning would come soon enough, and with it, the first steps of my own plan. She had declared the couch my new bed. Little did she know I was about to make much bigger declarations of my own. The next morning I woke before her alarm. My back ached from the couch, but my mind was razor sharp. I made coffee and waited, watching sunlight gradually fill the kitchen. When she emerged from the bedroom, already dressed for work, she seemed surprised to find me sitting calmly at the table. "We need to talk," I said. She poured herself coffee, avoiding my gaze. "I'm running late for a meeting." "Interesting. The financial advisory firm doesn't open until 9 and it's 7:30. I kept my voice level, watching her reaction. Her shoulders tensed slightly. "Team breakfast," she said. I nodded, letting the lie hang in the air between us. "Before you rush off to this urgent breakfast, where are the property documents for the house? I need them for the home equity line we discussed." The cup paused halfway to her lips. "They're filed away. I can look for them this weekend." "Don't bother. I already checked the filing cabinet, along with our joint investment portfolio documents. All missing." I sipped my coffee. Strange things keep disappearing around here. Documents, photos, my presence in our bedroom. Her expression hardened. "Are you spying on me now? Is it spying to look for documents in my own home, to notice when my belongings vanish, to question why my wife has suddenly locked me out of our bedroom? I think those are reasonable concerns, don't you?" She grabbed her purse. "I can't do this right now." "When, then? Because something is clearly happening here, and I deserve an explanation." She headed for the door. "We'll talk tonight." After she left, I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, then started my investigation in earnest. In the home office, I found browser history showing searches for divorce without spousal notification and transferring property before separation. Her email password had been changed, but I found a handwritten note with new account information for something called Horizon Properties. A call to our bank confirmed my suspicions. Large withdrawals had been made over the past 3 months, just under the amount that would trigger notification on our joint account. A separate call to my personal account, one she didn't know existed, confirmed it remained untouched. By noon, I'd met with my lawyer, an old college friend. His advice was clear: document everything, secure my assets immediately, and prepare for what was coming. I authorized him to file preliminary paperwork protecting my interests in our property and investments. The locksmith arrived at 2 p.m. "Lost your keys?" he asked cheerfully. "Something like that," I replied, watching him replace all the exterior locks. "My wife will need the new keys when she gets home," I explained casually. I had no intention of giving them to her. Next was the digital security company that arrived to install new cameras with footage accessible only through my private account. "Just some extra security measures," I told the technician, who nodded without question. By 4 p.m., I was in our safe deposit box at the bank, removing important documents and irreplaceable family heirlooms. The bank manager raised an eyebrow when I closed the account but processed the request without comment. I ordered dinner from her favorite restaurant, an ironic touch for what was coming, then waited, seated at the dining table with documents spread before me, bank statements, transfer records, and property deeds. The new key sat beside my plate. When she tried her key in the door at 6:30 p.m. and found it didn't work, I heard her frustrated attempts followed by angry knocking. I took my time answering. "What happened to the locks?" she demanded as I opened the door. "Interesting. That's your first question," I replied, stepping aside to let her in. "Not why they were changed, but what happened to them." I closed the door behind her. "Dinner's getting cold, and we have a lot to discuss, starting with Horizon Properties and why you've been planning to sell our house without my knowledge." Her face went pale. She hadn't expected this. Not so soon, not so thoroughly revealed. The couch may have been my bed for one night, but the house she thought she could steal was about to become an address she'd only visit in memories. Her composure cracked like thin ice under pressure. "You're overreacting," she stammered, setting her purse down with trembling hands. Horizon Properties was just an investment opportunity I was researching. "An investment opportunity requiring our house deed and marriage certificate?" I gestured to the documents spread across the table. "Please sit, your salmon is getting cold." She remained standing, eyes darting between me and the front door. "How did you access our own financial records? Check our joint accounts?" Basic adulting, really. I pulled out her chair. "Though I'm curious why the property assessment was scheduled during my business trip." Coincidence? Slowly, reluctantly, she sat down. I noticed she positioned herself for a quick exit, another telling detail from a woman who thought she held all the cards just 24 hours ago. "Let me catch you up on my day," I said, opening a folder. "After our enlightening 'the couch is your new bed' discussion last night, I became curious about other household changes. Missing documents led to missing money, which led to missing loyalty." I slid a bank statement toward her, key withdrawals highlighted in yellow. 3 months of systematic withdrawals, always $99,500, just under the reporting threshold. Clever. "That's my money too," she snapped, finding her voice. "Indeed, which is why I've only frozen the accounts, not emptied them." I smiled. Unlike some people at this table. Her eyes widened. "You can't do that." "Already done, along with filing an injunction preventing the sale of this property without dual consent." I took a bite of food. "The salmon really is excellent." "Sure you don't want some?" She pushed her plate away. "This is harassment." Fascinating perspective. I'm being kicked out of my bedroom, my house is being secretly marketed for sale, and $114,000 has disappeared from our joint accounts. But I'm the harasser. I set my fork down. "Speaking of harassment, let's discuss the restraining order you tried to file." That caught her off guard. "What are you talking about?" I produced another document, a copy of an incomplete restraining order application found in her desk drawer. This draft, claiming emotional abuse, would have been quite effective in forcing me out completely. When was this scheduled to be filed? Tomorrow? Next week? Her face flushed. That was just a precaution. Against what? A husband who travels for work and doesn't question your late meetings? Who trusted you enough to maintain joint accounts? Who actually believed we were building something together? I shook my head. No, that wasn't precaution. That was premeditation. The dining room fell silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator, appliances we'd chosen together in what seemed like another lifetime. Outside, sprinklers activated on the lawn I still maintained every weekend. "What happens now?" she finally asked, voice barely above a whisper. "That depends on what you want. If it's divorce, we can proceed civilly with proper legal disclosure, starting with where the $114,000 went. If it's reconciliation..." I paused, considering the possibility briefly before discarding it. "Well, that bridge isn't just burnt, you nuked it from orbit. And tonight, where am I supposed to sleep?" I smiled without humor. Interesting question from someone who just yesterday declared the couch my new bed. Options exist. Hotels are plentiful. Or perhaps whoever helped you plan all this has a spare room. She stood up suddenly. "You can't just lock me out of my own house." "Our house," I corrected. "And I'm not locking you out. You're welcome to stay." I held up the new keys. "But these remain with me, and the security system now alerts my phone. Consider it a household upgrade." As the reality of her situation sank in, I saw the first genuine emotion from her in months. Fear, not of me, but of consequences, of losing control of a scheme she thought was foolproof. "I have rights," she insisted weakly. "Absolutely. The right to an attorney, the right to explain to a judge why you attempted to defraud your spouse." I closed the folders and stacked them neatly. "The right to sleep on the couch tonight, assuming you're staying." Everything was different now. The power had shifted in 24 hours. The predator had become prey, and the prey was now fully awake. The house she'd planned to sell out from under me would indeed become her new address, just not in the way she'd imagined. She chose the couch that night. A small victory in her mind, perhaps, but meaningless in the larger war. I slept in our bed for the first time in 2 days, though slept might be generous. My mind raced with next steps, contingencies, and the strange grief that comes with betrayal. Morning arrived with rain pattering against the windows. I found her already awake, furiously texting someone. When she noticed me, the phone disappeared into her pocket with suspicious speed. "Coffee?" I offered, my voice neutral. She declined with a curt headshake. Gathering her things, "I'm going to stay with a friend for a few days. This situation is untenable." "A friend, or Horizon Properties?" I watched her reaction carefully. "That was quick detective work, by the way. Your real estate business, partner, has an interesting history of property fraud cases in 3 states. Her sharp intake of breath confirmed my suspicion. "How did you..." Public records are fascinating reading, especially when they involve someone trying to acquire half of my assets. I leaned against the doorframe. The police thought so too. The color drained from her face. "What police?" "The ones I spoke with yesterday about potential real estate fraud. They were particularly interested in the forged signatures on preliminary paperwork." I shrugged. "They may want to speak with you directly." It wasn't entirely true. I'd filed a report, but no officers had been assigned yet. But her reaction told me everything I needed to know about her guilt. "You're bluffing," she said, but uncertainty wavered in her voice. "Perhaps. But are you willing to bet your freedom on that?" I watched her mentally calculate her options. "Before you leave, I'll need your house keys, all of them." She clutched her keys tightly. "You can't just take my keys." "Actually, I can. New locks, remember? Those keys are useless anyway." I held out my hand. "Consider it a symbolic gesture of your changing status here." After a moment of defiance, she tossed the keys onto the floor between us and stormed out the front door. I heard her car engine start, followed by tires squealing on wet pavement. The moment she was gone, I called my lawyer. "She's left the house. How quickly can we file?" While he worked on legal maneuvers, I focused on the digital battlefield. Our home security system recorded her return that afternoon, with another person, a man who remained in the car while she approached the front door. Finding her key useless, she rang the doorbell repeatedly. The security camera captured our conversation perfectly. "I need to get some things," she demanded when I opened the door. "Of course. I'll accompany you." Her eyes darted toward the waiting car. "That's not necessary." "It absolutely is," I said. stepping aside to let her in, especially with your friend waiting outside, the one with the outstanding warrants in Colorado. Her shock was palpable. You don't know what you're talking about. 3 counts of real estate fraud, 2 of identity theft, currently operating under the business name Horizon Properties, despite having his broker's license revoked last year. I smiled pleasantly. Did I miss anything important? She pushed past me toward the bedroom, where she began frantically gathering clothes and personal items. I noticed her heading for the closet where we kept our shared safe. The contents have been relocated, I informed her, including the emergency cash, jewelry, and documents you were likely hoping to find. Frustration contorted her features as she stuffed clothes into a suitcase. You won't get away with this. With what exactly? Protecting my assets from theft, securing my property against intruders, filing police reports about attempted fraud? I leaned against the doorframe. I'm simply responding to the circumstances you created. She zipped her suitcase with unnecessary force. This isn't over. On that, we agree completely. After she left, I watched through the security camera as she and her companion argued in the car. The man gesticulated wildly, clearly upset about something. Their plan was unraveling, and blame was being assigned. I forwarded the footage to my lawyer with a simple message, additional evidence for the file. I poured myself a scotch and settled into the living room, not on the couch, but in my favorite armchair. The house felt different now, cleaner somehow, as if a long festering infection had been lanced. There was pain, certainly, but also the first hints of healing. The couch that was supposed to be my new bed now sat empty, but the house, this house that she had tried to steal, was about to become an address she'd need permission to visit. The tables hadn't just turned, they'd been completely overturned. 3 days passed with no contact. I used the time wisely, gathering documentation and working with my lawyer to fortify my position. The temporary injunction against selling the property became permanent. Bank records revealed the full extent of her financial deception. Not just withdrawals, but attempts to transfer the mortgage into her name alone using forged signatures. When my phone finally rang with her number, I was ready. We need to talk, she said without preamble. I agree. My lawyer's office, tomorrow at 2. A pause. No lawyers. Just us. I'm outside the house now. I checked the security camera feed. Sure enough, she stood in our driveway, phone pressed to her ear, looking smaller somehow. Alone this time. 5 minutes, I replied before hanging up. I opened the door before she could knock. She had put effort into her appearance. Hairstyled, makeup perfect, wearing the blue dress I once complimented. A calculated choice, like everything else. Thank you for seeing me, she said, voice softer than the last time we'd spoken. I gestured toward the living room but remained standing. This wouldn't take long. I've been thinking, she began, perching on the edge of the sofa. Maybe we acted hastily, both of us. Both, I repeated, letting the absurdity of her equivocation hang in the air. She attempted a conciliatory smile that didn't reach her eyes. I know things got out of hand, but we built a life together. 10 years of marriage shouldn't end like this. It should never have involved secret property listings, hidden bank withdrawals, or falsified legal documents either. Yet here we are. Her smile faltered. That was a misunderstanding. The real estate consultation was just exploring options for our future. The withdrawals were for investments I wanted to surprise you with. I laughed. A genuine, spontaneous reaction to such transparent lies. Investments requiring forged signatures on transfer documents? Was the draft restraining order allegation also going to be a surprise? She shifted tactics, eyes suddenly brimming with tears. I was scared. Our relationship was changing. You were distant, always working, and I panicked. Remarkable how your panic manifested as a coordinated financial strategy spanning months. I crossed my arms. Is this why you wanted to see me? To test whether emotional manipulation still works? The tears vanished as quickly as they had appeared. Her expression hardened, the mask of reconciliation discarded when it proved ineffective. Fine. My lawyer says your injunction won't hold up. Community property laws are on my side. Perhaps in some cases, but fraud allegations tend to complicate matters. I retrieved an envelope from the side table. These arrived today. Thought you might want your copies. She opened the envelope. Her face fell as she read the legal notices. Temporary restraining order granted against her. Emergency petition approved for separation of assets due to evidence of financial misconduct. Preliminary hearings scheduled for forensic accounting of missing funds. This is, she hissed, papers trembling in her hands. Every action has consequences, I replied, including telling your husband the couch is his new bed while planning to steal his house. She stood abruptly. I want half of everything. That's my right. Under normal circumstances, perhaps, but these, I gestured to the documents, are not normal circumstances. The judge was particularly interested in the recorded conversations between you and your associate discussing how to liquidate assets before he notices. Her eyes widened. You recorded private conversations? That's illegal. Not when they occur in my home, where security cameras with audio were legally installed. The expectation of privacy doesn't extend to conspiracy. She paced the room, the reality of her situation finally sinking in. What do you want? To punish me? Take everything? I want what's fair. Which, given your actions, is considerably less than half. I checked my watch. Your 5 minutes are up. My lawyer will contact yours with settlement terms. And if you don't agree, then discovery proceeds, including full investigation of Horizon Properties' connection. Their legal troubles become your legal troubles. I opened the front door. Your choice. She walked toward the exit, then paused on the threshold. I never thought you'd fight back like this. You were always so accommodating. People reveal themselves under pressure, I replied. Some expose their capacity for betrayal, others their capacity for justice. As she stepped outside, I added, by the way, I'm sleeping quite well in our bed these days. How's your new address working out? The door closed on her stunned expression. In the silence that followed, I felt neither joy nor vindication, only the calm certainty that comes with reclaiming what's yours from those who never deserved it. The settlement meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. My lawyer arrived early, reviewing documents in the conference room while we waited. She was late, a power play, or perhaps a final grasp at control. When she finally entered, flanked by her own attorney, I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished appearance, replaced by exhaustion and defeat. The last month had taken its toll as reality dismantled her plans piece by piece. Her lawyer spoke first. We've reviewed your proposed settlement terms. My lawyer nodded. And they're punitive and vindictive, her lawyer responded. My client is entitled to... Your client, my lawyer interrupted, is fortunate we haven't pursued criminal charges for the documented fraud attempts. The settlement offers considerable leniency given the circumstances. Her eyes met mine across the table, the first direct look we'd shared in weeks. I saw something unexpected there, not anger or defiance, but recognition. She knew she'd lost. Could we have the room? She asked suddenly. Just us. 5 minutes. Both lawyers objected simultaneously, but I raised my hand. It's fine. When the door closed behind them, silence stretched between us. The conference room overlooked the city skyline, a view of possibilities and consequences. Was any of it real? I finally asked, the question that had haunted me more than I cared to admit. She studied her hands. Some, in the beginning, a pause. I don't know when it changed. When you met him? She shook her head. Before that. We were growing apart for years. You were building your career and I was disappearing. So you decided to take everything instead of talking to me? The calm in my voice surprised even me. It wasn't planned that way initially. But then one step led to another, and suddenly there was a path where I could start over. With security. She looked up. I never meant to hurt you. And yet, I replied, gesturing to the legal documents between us. Here we are. Here we are, she echoed. You know, when I told you to sleep on the couch, I expected arguments, pleading, compromise, the pattern we'd fallen into for years. I never expected this version of you. I considered her words. Necessity reveals what comfort conceals. You needed me to remain passive and accommodating for your plan to work. And now? Now we sign these papers. You return the money you diverted. What remains of it? The house stays with me, along with the investments I built. You keep your personal accounts, your car, and enough to restart. She nodded slowly, resignation replacing resistance. And that's it? 10 years ends with signatures and asset division? The marriage ended when you decided I was an obstacle to overcome, rather than a partner to respect. I straightened the papers before me. This is just paperwork. When the lawyers returned, we proceeded efficiently, line by line, initial by initial. We dismantled the decade of shared life. Her attorney's expression grew increasingly grim as the full extent of her client's misconduct was detailed in clinical legal terms. 2 hours later, it was done. She would clear the remaining personal items from the house the following weekend, supervised by a neutral third party. All financial entanglements were severed, all future claims relinquished. As we stood to leave, she hesitated, then spoke quietly enough that only I could hear. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." I studied her face, searching for manipulation but finding only exhaustion. "I believe you are, not for what you did, but for how it ended." Outside the building, standing beside our respective cars, about to head in opposite directions, she asked one final question. Was it worth it? Fighting this hard? I considered the past month, the sleepless nights, the legal fees, the emotional toll. Then I remembered the moment I found those documents, the cold calculation behind them, the future that awaited if I'd simply accepted the couch as my fate. "Some battles choose you," I answered. "The cost of surrender was higher than the cost of war." She nodded, understanding at last, and slipped into her car without another word. I drove home, my home now, uncontested, and stood in the doorway taking in the space that had nearly been stolen from me. There were gaps where her things had been, shadows of missing pictures on the walls, echoes of a life dismantled. It wasn't the ending I'd once imagined for us, but it was an ending I could stand tall within. The couch sat in the living room, no longer a symbol of banishment but simply furniture again. I'd replace it eventually, along with other remnants of our shared past. But for now, it remained a reminder that sometimes the most important battles begin with the smallest indignities. She had declared the couch my new bed, never expecting I would make the entire house her new address, one she needed permission to visit. The irony wasn't lost on me as I poured a glass of scotch and settled into rebuilding a life that was entirely my own.